act up, you could get snatched up. Oh, really? How funny that you tell me this when I'm already out of money. Why didn't you say so, silly? No Doja, no cat, because apparently now broke bears don't deserve no kitty. I know that's right. Right? My name is Victory. I am a first-generation Nigerian American college student. Throughout high school, I have participated in 12 extracurriculars, including, but not limited to, Embrace Multicultural, Math Tutoring, Union, and other various internships and scholarly programs while maintaining a 3.5 GPA. I tell you these things not to try and boast, but to tell you that having the opportunity to receive education for free should not be this difficult. I also tell you this to highlight an exception to the bastion of inequality that is the college industrial complex, one that feeds into the myth of exceptionalism, tricking those who are unaware into believing that we live in an actual meritocracy where your hard work is rewarded with societal markers of success. To aid me with the dissection of this topic, I've employed the experiences of some of my friends and your faves, but first of all, let's define our terms. What? The college industrial complex, a system in which higher learning institutions center capital, elitist values, and/or the ability to uphold the status quo over the education of their students. Who? Literal children, aka unsuspecting high school graduates and GED recipients. How? It centers capital by forcing higher learning institutions to utilize unsavory tactics such as the misinforming of prospective students in order to stay in business and make profit. It centers elitist values because of a few reasons. 1. The elite hold most of the money in America, and those funding dollars are important when it comes to making sure colleges and universities stay open. These elite dollars are especially important for nonprofit learning institutions that rely on those donor dollars to function. 2. Because graduating from college is associated with upward socioeconomic mobility, the exceptionalist middle class reinforces these certain elitist values to differentiate themselves from those who did not receive a higher education. After all, if there was no difference between people that did go to college and did not go to college, then how would the image of meritocracy be upheld? If it was clear to everyone from the beginning that upward socioeconomic mobility was not ensured and that was the majority of the population's understanding, why would so many people be trying to utilize higher learning as a way to lift themselves up out of poverty? For the perception of others? Because for many, including me, that's not a good enough reason to put themselves into thousands of dollars worth of debt. That leads me to my final point. The college industrial complex exists in great part to perpetuate the elitist belief that higher learning makes you a better person. When the college industrial complex is functioning as we speak, and it has been for many years. From the hopeful burgeoning days of early stage capitalism to the student loan debt crisis of today, it has a history that allows it to continue feeding lies of economic mobility into the mouths of unsuspecting and suspecting students. Because even if you're suspicious of an institution, it becomes hard to be critical of it as a whole when everyone around you is telling you that it's your only way out. Your way out of wobbly checks that can't support a household. Your way out of garnishments that snatch every opportunity that you have to enjoy your life. Your way out of struggle and desperation just to survive. Where? This is happening in the hood old United States. At least in the hood, people support each other's endeavors and are full of empathy and understanding. However, the US is not the only place where this happens. Why? This entire process happens in order to support the facade of peace and prosperity acted out by every system in our capitalistic nation. It exists to be used as proof that both federal and certain local governments actually care about their constituents and not just about their own security. But Victory, what about all of the other students that have succeeded after going through college? 1. How do you define success? I define success as being able to provide for oneself while also being able to enjoy one's life with hope for the future. As Maya Angelou states, success is liking yourself, liking what you do, and liking the way that you do it. And I'm partial to that definition as well. Another part of that success is being a part of a community in which you contribute to and see results from. A never-ending amalgam of mutual interpersonal support. Now, look at my definition and see if those students have actually succeeded. Because studies showed that Notorious B.I.G. was not lying when he said more money, more problems. And here's a shout out to the patrons because they so great and they fund all the things on this channel, so you should become a patron. Yeah. Aha! Shout out Grace Nelson, Bert, Lanzinator, Idol Ironon, and Free Range Fatty. Thank you for being patrons. There are now 5 tiers on the Patreon. Guardian Gollum gives you access to 6 plus hours of bonus content, including creators like FD Signifier, Princess Weeks, Harriana Hook, and ForeignManinaForeignLand, along with many other creators with which I've collaborated with on the internets. We are currently saving up to be able to pay the creators that are featured on the channel. We're also saving up for SD cards and hard drives because too many video files have become corrupt. Traumatizing. If that is something that interests you, please feel free to sign up for the Patreon. Let's get back to the video, shall we? Now that we've gone over the overarching problems, let's try outlining a temporary solution. Canceling student loan debt. Cancel student loan debt. Cancel it. The only actual solution that addresses the root cause of that problem is having free higher education like other countries in the civilized world. But until that happens, how about you let people use their money to, I don't know, support themselves? Anyways, on a note that's probably more productive, let's go over some more local and individualized solutions. LRAPs, or Loan Repayment Assistance Programs, are programs in which a varying percentage of student loans are paid for once you graduate up until you make a certain amount of income. Where I live, the cap is normally $55,000 a year. But you should consult your own local universities for their cap if they have an LRAP program. These programs are relatively new, but higher learning institutions seem to finally be reading the room that happens to already be trillions of dollars into the ground and implementing them nationwide. So ask. In Indiana, we have a website called Explorador that aggregates local academic and career opportunities that local students are more likely to receive. Check to see if your state offers anything similar, because unfortunately it is who you know and not what you know, and getting in contact with actual representatives through such programs does give you an advantage. Now here is where I have seen so many prospective college students drop a bag. If you are a student that has to pay for an education of any kind, do not accept offers unless they are full rides. And even then, you should still negotiate to see if there are any other opportunities to finance other expenses, such as devices, books, and transportation. The same way that you shop around car insurance quotes is the same way that you should be shopping around scholarship offers. This is Victory the editor, just popping in to add a little bit of context because I do realize that it seems a little too easy for you to just go in and negotiate down the price of your education, but it is a real thing. Please never get it mixed up. You as the student are the one providing value to a university. It is not the other way around. Without students, there would be no university, without it being a massive financial sink. You get the right to negotiate your worth as a student at any university, no matter which grades you get, no matter which extracurriculars that you participate in, because you are the being that is providing value to that institution. Now, of course, results may vary, but at the very base of your understanding, know that you are the one providing value to a university. There is a certain lack of self-worth that I find most readily in communities of color. And I am going to be the one to tell you, if you have not already heard it before, you are the one that is providing value. There is a certain mindset that promotes this lack of worth within communities of color. And I, as a person that has gotten what I've wanted out of the negotiation process, can tell you that you are actually worth everything, even if you don't get the best grades, even if you don't have all of the extracurriculars under your belt. You are a worthy student and you are of value. There is a resource in the description from a person by the name of Ismatu Gwendolyn that outlines being Black and poor at a PWI. And there are a lot of things in that presentation that I think students that aren't Black and students that also do not go to a PWI can glean from it. Coming up next in the video are the experiences of Black grads at different levels, different ages, and of different demographics, and their experiences with higher learning and education. Hope you enjoy.
I am FD Signifier. I am a YouTube content creator, and as of about this month, I'm almost 2 years in the game, and I make media and cultural analysis content with a emphasis on Black perspectives, with a extra emphasis on examining and discussing Black masculinity.
I run the YouTube channel formerly known as Melina Pendulum, and now also just Princess Weeks. Almost 30-year-old Brooklynite. I write, I do YouTube, I do work for PBS, and I'm a proud new cat mom. Overall, just big anime nerd fam.
Hi, my name is Harriana, and I like to make content based off nostalgia and family and children's entertainment and all the issues that I find within those spaces.
I mean, that's an epistemological question that I wasn't prepared for. I am ForeignManinaForeignLand, otherwise known as Rants with James, otherwise known as Foreign, and I am saving Caribbean culture with commentary.
Overall, I don't have the worst complaints in my education experience. I went to undergrad at Clark University, and that was probably the single most important experience in my life. I learned the baseline of my politics there. I met lifelong friends there. I met my wife there. I had a real powerful immersion experience with other Black people. I was well educated overall, and I'm an advocate for HBCUs. Overall, there's flaws. I also incurred a lot of debt there. I am lucky in that I had a mother who was able to cut that debt in half on my behalf. So I don't have too many complaints about Clark. I do it again, student loans and all. Then after that, I went to grad school. I am technically still in grad school. Grad school is not the same. I did not have a horrible time at grad school, and I value what grad school did for me overall. But if I could do it all over again, I plan better during undergrad to either make grad school less necessary or to rethink how I wanted to enter the work world and get into my career, so that I could have less student loan debt, less time wandering and trying to figure things out. The education I've had up to this point, the experiences I've had in undergrad, my professional experiences, all of that has enriched my content, right? I feel like that's one of the things I bring to the table in my content that is difficult, that I don't think can be mimicked easily, which is a perspective that is informed by 20 plus years on y'all. You know what I'm saying? What are you, 18?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah, I think the oldest person is Khadijah, who just turned 30 or is about to turn 30. You know what I'm saying? So like that makes a difference. You know what I'm saying? I couldn't have came out of, undergrad or high school, especially the time where my head was at the time, and made the type of content I make now.
Boy. Okay, so I went to a PWI, predominantly white institution, when I went to undergraduate. And while in many ways it helped me come into my Blackness being around that many white people, I think the biggest downside is that they didn't really have the resources to allow me to really get engaged with the kind of stuff I wanted to do. It allowed me to get things done, but it was definitely very expensive. And I think going back, I do wish that I had made a more fiscally conservative, lowercase conservative choice of going to a state school or a SUNY if I wanted to just go away from the city. My grad school at Brooklyn College, however, I found to be one of my absolute favorite educational experiences. Not only was it affordable, I didn't have any debt coming out of my master's degree, but I was in a diverse campus environment, being taught by people from multiple different backgrounds, and just being in community with other Black folks. And that was really good for me. And Black Caribbean people who were really invested in doing work that was in conversation with Black Caribbeanness. It allowed me to come into myself, and I was also allowed to just focus on English, just focus on English literature. Didn't have to do math, didn't have to pretend I cared about any of that. I could just do the work that was passionate to me. And so that was probably my best experience because it was affordable and it was focused.
For the most part, me being the nerd that I've always been, like, not only am I a nerd that likes comic books and like cartoons, but I'm also like the other kind of stereotypical nerd. I really just enjoy learning. But college was a very exciting thing for me. I do like to learn, but I didn't really like the school I was at. I hated my middle school and I hated my high school because the kids were just so mean. But I remember I found out that in college, the people are a lot more mature because people are there to actually learn and get their work done so they can get that degree and go and move on with their life. So I went to community college my first semester and I did enjoy it. I learned a lot, so much. And then I transferred to university where I'm still currently at my second semester, freshman year. And it was just so many changes that I've been to because I've been to 3 different schools in the time span of 1 year. And I think I was just kind of overwhelmed for the most part. I was actually learning and I was happy about it, but it was just like, oh my gosh, these are like skills that I'm going to be using in my life. The things that I am learning is what's going to help me with my jobs and whatnot that I decided to get later on. So it was just kind of like I don't want to say it was a culture shock, but it was kind of like a coming to sense of realization that education does matter. That's one thing college really taught me. Education really does matter. But I've also had to change my major along the way because of the COVID-19 pandemic. My original major was theater. My minor is African American Studies. I wasn't worried about my minor in African American Studies, but I was very concerned about that theater major because, you know, theater was literally dead for like almost 2 years. But during that time period, that's when my YouTube channel started taking off. That's when my business, like my brand, my personal brand, and it did make my relationship with school a bit weird because I wasn't sure if this is what I wanted to do anymore. I love my theater community. I love if it's really helped me grow as an actor and a creator, but I realized it just wasn't beneficial for my life anymore. Some people don't seem to realize that depending on what major you're in college, you're not really going to have much time for yourself.
Definitely been some great things. So I studied political science as my undergrad, political science pre-law, with a minor in leadership studies, which is just a BS, but not a Bachelor of Science degree, BS in the more derogatory version of the word. A degree that basically says that I know how to lead, or I've studied different leadership styles. And I studied at Iowa State University, so all of the people that know what Iowa is like probably understand that it is an austerely white institution. And not only am I Black, but my Blackness is Bahamian, as I am from the Bahamas. So that has resulted in me being othered extensively, but it also taught me more about being from the Bahamas than I would have learned had I not been in a PWI, a predominantly white institution. And I am currently finishing up my master's degree in political science and public policy, being my focus. So I analyze policies that run societies, run municipalities, and figure out their efficacy, looking at different ways that the government can do better, can do worse, looking at structural failures on different levels. All that very boring jargon to say that I read a lot. I read a lot and I talk a lot. And that's what I've been doing for the past 8 years. So my experience has been in many ways great. Iowa's an amazing place in a lot of regards. I give it a lot of grief, but I've met amazing people. I've also met the dregs of the people, the dregs of society I've met here. Some of the least flattering depictions of the human condition I've met here. I think that it's been an extremely enlightening experience that I wouldn't have had any other way. But definitely when you ask, how has my experience been with higher learning in particular, I have to say mixed. I have to say ambivalent. I'd have to say an amalgamation of good and bad because I just can't. I don't look back at it bushy-eyed and blue-tailed, but I'm definitely eager to get out of academia, especially white academia, because there's something about extremely smart people saying woefully dumb things on a constant basis that is very disheartening and exhausting. And I think that's how I feel about academia.
So I am part of patient zero for student loan debt. Student loan debt wasn't an understood thing when I went to college. Us old millennials it's rough because the Gen Xers, I don't know what blew up student loans, right? Like, I don't know what blew them shits up, but between my brother graduating college in 1996 and 7 or something, and me going to college in 2000, it was just a whole new money game. So I got to college and I didn't understand that you had to pay back. I understood you had to pay it back, but it seemed like such a ridiculous thing to be doing that in my head, it must be not as bad as it sounds. Right. Maybe there's something about it I don't understand, that when it's all said and done, it'll be cool, because surely they're not going to let me put myself $150,000 into debt to be a teacher. Surely somebody will sit me down and say, hey, teachers make this much money. You owe this much money. Don't.
I think the only thing that really just kind of shook me a bit is that I didn't go to the same class. You only have class once or twice a week in college, sometimes 3, depending on the subject matter. So the way my class is that I'm taking right now, I only have to go to class once a week. I didn't realize that in school, high school, middle school, you're in class every single day. They teach you this all week. That is the subject. But it's they only give you one day to learn about the source material, and you realize that's kind of all you need, if that makes sense. They give you the material, they teach it, but a lot of it has to come from you. You have to do your own studying.
Yeah, going back to that about smart people being dumb, I don't think nobody prepares you for that. I think that the world prepares you to look at hierarchical structures and just say, okay, this person has more degrees than me, he's been here longer than me, he's older than me. And I'm saying he also as a higher position, because these men are typically old white men, typically in these positions of tenured power. You don't typically see people of color being there, especially at a predominantly white institution, for various reasons. Sometimes it is structural racism in many regards, but simply just the fact that it's very difficult for a person of color or a minority to even be in this environment for a long amount of time without getting exhausted, without coming up against these different obstacles. I have to go to get this haircut right here. I had to travel an hour out of town because there's no black barbers, viable black barbers. And this is tragic, and I haven't been able to talk about this yet, and this is a tangent, but my barber whom I used to go to, he used to cut off at his basement. He just got out of jail. He just died. I didn't even get time to grieve because I had to travel an hour to go and get another haircut from a barber that I don't necessarily know, because I had to go and look presentable for something that I had to do the following day. So that's something that my white colleagues wouldn't necessarily do or have to do, because they could go to a barber right across the road, and in the unfortunate event that they're dead, they can go to another barber right across the road, because there's numerous amounts of places where they can go and get a haircut and I can't.
A bunch of them. So I pledged, so I joined a fraternity, and that is just good clean fun. So fraternities are probably top tier. Nothing's automatic. I got frat brothers that work at Foot Locker, but fraternities and then the secret organizations like the Masons and the Eastern Stars, etc. Their biggest value is creating, like you just said, networks and affinity groups. Because even if I was applying for a job and the person over it was an alpha, so not in my fraternity, the fact that I joined a fraternity to that person would have meant something on paper. You know what I mean?
The scholarships have helped, but I think, if I'm being quite honest, the thing that has helped me the most in terms of my higher education is knowing how to get internships, knowing how to subsidize what I couldn't get, knowing how to navigate things. And that really comes from your own ambition, which sucks because I think it should be a little bit easier. It shouldn't have to be all on Hugh, but it is. I think honestly, yeah, it was community. Community really helped me. Community has been when it works, it's been my best education. I learned more about feminism, from Tumblr, from early Tumblr than I did from school, which is sad considering the state of Tumblr now. But like a lot of the things that really got me to understand a lot of these concepts and put them into like a pop culture lens was seeing it on Tumblr and seeing how people wanted to talk about it. Because I think for me, I felt like, I'm such a nerd. I want to like talk about all these things, but like with anime or like with Sailor Moon or Xena. And I saw people were doing the same thing and it made me feel better about learning. So I think finding a community that engages you intellectually is like the best like thing to help you enjoy your education, because then you can feel like you're actually applying it to something that matters.
I hate to say it, I hope I don't sound ridiculous, but it is this site called Purdue Owl. A lot of these online free writing sites, I even throw Khan Academy in there and all of that. That stuff right there is what's helping me. Like Crash Course with John Green on YouTube. Those outside learning sources are what have been helping me with college for the most part, because I notice I don't like to say I have to have things dumbed down for me, but I do need things to be explained a little bit more simpler for me to get them. And that's what so much of this free content out here on YouTube is. It's explained in an easier, more simpler way for you to get it. I literally would not have passed my history class if it weren't for Crash Course videos. I literally would barely have not even have passed like my math class if it wasn't for Khan Academy. Purdue Owl, while I am very strong when it comes to the subject of English, it helps me a lot when it comes to my grammar choices and how to cite my papers or whatnot. Online free sources that are just seen as like so-so or whatever to many people, those things are what is helping me get through school, especially Quizlet. Shout out to Quizlet. I don't recommend people just go on Quizlet to look at the answers for stuff, but like them little study guides they put on Quizlet, study them. It's very helpful.
¿Por qué no los dos?
Yeah, like this is literally free information out here, and you can use that to make the most out of your degree.
In the Bahamas, it isn't acrimony isn't to that regard. Like it leans more towards a public learning system and educating Bahamian to get what they want, because we do not have predatory loans to that extent. We definitely have some loans are definitely a thing, but you don't have the average student accruing an enormous amount of debt to the point where they can't even get out from underneath it by the time that they get out of university with an undergrad. That's not the case for your average Bahamian, I should say.
Spend as little money as possible unless you're going to an HBCU. And then still spend as little money as possible, but just understand you're probably getting the overall better product. I told my kids that. We play with them, but I'm like, look, the only school we're paying money for is a black school. If you want to go to a white school, that's great. You better come up with some scholarship money. Otherwise, if you want us to co-sign a whole bunch of loans for you to end up paying back, then you better get the bang for your buck. Overall, that's generally speaking, that's we do a better job at it. But if you're gonna, basically like college is what you make of it in general. And every college experience isn't going to be great. I had a great one. I know some people didn't, even at my own school. And you got to find a space that you think you'll fit and that'll work for you. But no matter what, understand this is a transactional activity. And you are going to college to come away with human capital that you can exchange for profit on the open market, or whatever the capitalist, whatever the appropriate terms you're supposed to use are. That's what you're going to college for. You're going to college so you can get a good job that hopefully serves you, etc. Don't get caught up on wanting to be at the top school in a particular field or the top school in a particular area, unless that like really resonates you, unless you're trying to go there to find a mate that also got the same hustle and swag. At the end of the day, people don't really pay that much attention to the name on the paper. The only thing you're paying for is the experience and the network, right? And you can't guarantee that you're going to get a network like that. Like you can't guarantee that you're going to go to Yale and truly be able to access that Yale network.
I would ask them what they are going to college for. I think that my generation will probably be the last to really force higher education on children as a quantifier of success. You know, if you're going to college to appease somebody, you're never going to have an enjoyment out of it. Are you going in there because you really want to have a career that lends itself to college, or are you just doing it to go through the motions? If you're doing it to go through the motions because you know that you need a college degree to get certain entry points into the world, which is totally valid, go to a community college, go to a 2-year university, see how you feel, get at least your associates, and then see if it's something that you're passionate about that you want to work in. I say always find a way to make your passions work for you, and that can mean whatever it is to everybody else. I say if you really like doing stuff with your hands and you want to be in a technical school, go to a technical school. Do not let anyone tell you that there's only one lane for success, because it's not true. A 4-year university is not as meaningful as people say it is. Really do it for you. And I think that's the most important thing. If you're getting ready to go to school, think about your future. And I don't mean like your job as well. I mean like them loans. Can you afford it? What are you going to be able to manage? Are you just doing this for the sake of somebody else? Really take the time to think about how this is going to be your commitment. What experiences do you want to have? Do you want to be away from your family because you know you come from a certain environment, or do you want to like be able to study abroad? Really make this next 2 to 4 years work for you.
I'm just gonna say this: if you do not get into that Ivy League school that you've been dying to go to, it's probably for the better. Go. Like, college is supposed to be an experience because you know you're learning about yourself, but you're also working towards adulthood, being more independent, making your own money. I know it's a very stressful time period signing up for schools to get accepted in and everything like that, but I'm just letting you know now, you kind of worrying for no reason. Wherever you get in at is probably for the better. Probably got in somewhere that you know you can afford a lot more than that school you were dying to go to. I know like so many of my classmates were very stressful were very stressed out during senior year about where they were going to go to school at, and people were crying because they realized they couldn't afford to go to their dream school and whatnot. I think my best way to explain to this, I don't want it to sound discouraging, but when it comes to college, keep your expectations low. Keep your expectations low. It is not going to be what you think it is when you get there. Just because it costs less to go to one school than another does not mean that you are not getting the proper education that you deserve. It's just the subject of getting accepted into school is like so stressful for so many of us. And I know I already said stressful again, but now that I look back at it, I wasn't stressed, but I saw how a lot of my friends were stressed. And I feel like it's just kind of pointless because they did all this worrying about getting into their dream school. And a lot of them didn't even like the school they got into and transferred. Some of them had to leave their dream schools because they could no longer. But it really just takes a sense of maturity. It really just takes a sense of maturity to understand that wherever you go to school at, it doesn't really matter. If you're still stuck on trying to get into that Ivy League school that you know you can't afford and you're really just trying to get in for bragging rights, you ain't hurting nobody but yourself. It's a lot more stressful to try to stay in one of those schools than just going somewhere where you know you can afford. You know it's easier for you to commute there. You know you can afford the room and board. You know you'll be closer to home with all your family and friends and whatever. Like I said, keep your expectations low because you're worrying about nothing.
More and more, I think that colleges serve a purpose as an experience to aggregate a lot of knowledge, to be introduced to a lot of different experiences, especially people. Different people, diversity of experiences, diversity of theories that you wouldn't find if you don't do it. But I would encourage people to take a lot of time when it comes to, don't rush into getting into college, especially right now, because if you're doing college in order to gain access to capitalism, to get a job, or to get like your dream job, it's not always guaranteed. I would say most of the time it's not guaranteed. College isn't necessarily the best gateway. More and more we're finding out that the degree is becoming less and less of a means of getting what you want as far as your dream job goes. And if you want to go into the whole I don't dream a label thing, yeah, go into it. But as far as like getting what you want in this job market, it isn't always accessed through college degrees. I will say that a lot of it is networking, of course. It's who you know. It's a lot of nepotism. It's a lot of being able to get yourself into into different rooms that get you access to different people. But I would extremely encourage a younger me to understand that. And not only that, but I'm doing pretty much what I would have wanted to do when I first was looking at colleges, I wanted to do music because music is my life. And that's my passion. However, you have, of course, other people like your parents. My parents in particular really wanted me to be a lawyer. And I like law. I like reading. I like political science, which is a precursor to law. And I intend to read law. However, I ended up putting off and delaying a lot of the things that I am doing anyway, which is making, content, whether it be video essays or making music in my video essays or production or all of these different things. I ended up doing that anyway. And I only could think of how much further I would have been along had I done what I wanted to do in the first place. So I would have encouraged a younger me to probably not ignore and hamper those initial passions because of what you feel as though will get you money, be able to sustain you. Don't make collegiate decisions because of money solely. Be practical, like we've said, like it's not wrong to engage in capitalism even though you're critiquing capitalism, but be practical. Don't put yourself into a situation where you're going to be struggling just because you want to be passionate about something, because sometimes it doesn't pay off. But I would definitely encourage a younger me to, one, potentially look at vocations, potentially look at alternative routes to college, potentially do some college courses at community college rather than a four-year institution, because they're immensely cheaper and they still carry the same academic credits, and you'll be able to transfer them into a four-year institution. So I would encourage them to do that. Look at community courses, look at vocational routes, look at alternative college courses, as well as network, as well as listen to your passions as well, and figure out if there's any way to incorporate your passions into what you want to do long term.
Socio-emotional learning needs to be in colleges. That's something that's been added to most grade schools in the last couple of years. Like my kids take social-emotional learning, which is basically like practical sociology, talking about feelings, talking about addressing stress, addressing mental health, baseline politics, not really, but like probably in college maybe. That along with like just genuine social support systems within schools. Like colleges will have counselors, but like not a lot and not enough, and definitely not Black, or at least like informed with a Black, what's the word I'm looking for? Effective for Black people. There's a better word there, but I can't think of it. But a lot of therapists, especially for Black men, like there's the running theme of like, go to therapy, brother, go to therapy, which is true. But what people aren't talking about is that like there's research that shows that a lot of therapists don't know how to deal with men in general, let alone with Black. And there's not enough men or Black men in the field. There's gaps there. So all of that aside, like each student should be on a social worker's caseload at these colleges, no matter how high end or excellent the student is or whatever the resources of the college are. Colleges should have built-in social work elements where students are checking in or being checked on by social workers, to not just like, oh, you come meet with me when you need something, but no, I'm coming to you before I see the problem boiling up. You feel me? That would do so much for and that could be combined with, academic progress and understanding what your major is going to offer you at the end of the day when you finish it and things like that. This college still has a very bootstrap mentality game to it, where you made it, now get your internship and get out there and be somebody. And there's people, those of us who are just truly talented, truly driven, that you can send them to any college, they're going to get theirs, right? But if you're going to charge everybody all this money and you're going to let all these people in, and that the game is not going to pan out for all of them, then you need to be putting some of this ridiculous tuition money prices towards social development. And maybe you can reduce suicidal ideation on these campuses. Maybe you can reduce sexual assault on these campuses. Maybe you can reduce dropout rates on these campuses. You can do all of that if there's more support for these students, high achievers and not. That's what I think. If there was, short of full-on dismantling, getting into my St. Andrew bag of the system, right? If we are forced to preserve the system, which we, definitely are at the moment, then the system can do better by seeking to serve the people more directly and providing them with what they need versus saying, here's what we offer to everybody. This is equality versus equity. Equity is what we need.
I think college should be free, period. I think college should be free. I think we need to start we need to get rid of general education requirements. I don't have nothing to prove to you anymore. You already took my money. Why do I have to take math again? Algebra again. I'm an English major. I am not here to count. I am here to read. And if you are going to make me do math, how about you teach me how to do accounting, how to fill out a W-2, how to fill out a 1099. Teach me actual things that'll help me. There should be a class of just algebra, or it should be like life math. The things that revolve numbers that you need to know how to do, how to open a savings account, how to save 25% of everything you make if you have 1099. That would be useful. That would actually be helpful for people, because I had to pay, just to let y'all know, learn a lesson from Auntie Princess. I had 1099s for the first time ever, where I had a bunch of them. I owed Joe Biden so much money because I did not know that when it comes to 1099s, you don't pay taxes. You pay it after the fact. I thought that he was getting his money already. So now I find out that now I have to pay him everything he didn't get last year. And he has decided that I can afford that. And thankfully, I had a very nice Black Guinean accountant who sat down with me, helped me get some deductibles up in there, put in some expenses to really bring it down, and really help me prepare of how to save and do better for next year. And I just think, like, if I had gone to school and they sat down, let me tell you like about credit card debt, but no one teaches you about how to avoid just life debt of not knowing how to fill out the certain kind of papers. Teach people that. That'll take you farther along than anything else, is teaching kids how to actually balance the money that they should be making when they get out of college, or the money they won't be making when they get out of college. Either way, good information to have.
We need to do something about this elitism issue that we have when it comes to academia. That's the main reason why so many of the issues surrounding college, academia makes people mean. That's like the best way to put it. I'm sorry if I'm just kind of like rambling on right now, because that question it's just bringing back really horrible memories, the way my teachers and a lot of my classmates treated me because of my decisions when it came to how I wanted to go about my college life. It's just making me very emotional at the moment, because I'm just like, there was nothing wrong with me going to community college for my first semester and then transferring over to a smaller university with not that many people and all of that jazz. But I could look down upon that because people were seeing it as like, at a real school, you're not, like, basically like people like, you're not going to a real school, you're going somewhere where you're not going to learn, yada yada yada. Like, people speaking on things that they don't know and don't understand. Like, you didn't go to this school, you can't tell me this and that and the third and whatever. People just need to be a lot kinder when it comes to people's decisions with how they choose to get their degrees. But also, people need to learn how to mind their business. I am so big on minding your business. That is just something I wish people would understand. Why are you so concerned about somebody going to community college? Why are you so concerned about somebody living at home and commuting back and forth to their universities and also working on the side because they're not able to fully focus on their degree because they have to go to work as well? Why does people wanting to do the more affordable route irritate y'all so bad? Mind your business.
Maybe formatting education more so in the idea of enlightening the electorate rather than commodifying on the electorate, because it's pretty apparent that the college industry, and it is a complex, the college industry is that of trying to make money off of it. SAT as an industry, like what's the companies called that basically disperses SAT? Scholastic and all of that. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, College Board and all of them. Like, that is a business. You know, all of that is a business. They are cashing out on people, on college hopefuls before they even get into college. You know, so the fact of the matter is being honest with themselves and changing the model totally. If they really if college is really about informing the electorate and making them having a more intelligent and inquisitive electorate, then actually make decisions at the collegiate level and the administrative level that reflect that. But at this point and at this juncture, college is looking more like a business than it is like a good for people to learn from. So I would definitely want to change that as well.
I feel as though there are two main ways to be influenced by the college industrial complex as a person of color. You either are low-key radicalized, aka woke enough to critique the system you now have to participate in to be okay, or you become a hashtag capitalist of color. It's giving Candace Owens. It's also becoming a sales rep of the pull yourself up by your bootstrap mentality in a country with an abusive meritocracy that mentally, emotionally, and sometimes physically beats you blue. And you know it's hard to make people of color turn them blue and purple shades because of all the melanin. I'm gonna drill down even further to specifically speak to my experience of Black people who follow the latter jingle mentality. When you refuse to check your class privilege at the door in conversations discussing Black oppression, you sound like a white supremacist. Mostly because you're more than likely going to perpetuate white supremacist talking points while telling your skin folk that they should just work hard and go make oppression go bye-bye with capital. But criticism from this Black angle cuts even deeper than the white supremacist ramblings that fill the ears of Black people on a near daily basis. You, as a Black person that no longer has to worry about the tribulation of poverty, look like me and therefore share a bit of my experience. And that experience makes your words sound less hollow than those of racialized white counterparts. However, what I need you to know is that you saying the same things that have historically been used to oppress people that look like me, people that look like us, does not give them any more actual merit. It just makes you look like you don't care enough to care. A finding that has actually been proven through the scientific study of the wealthy's behavioral patterns. Now I know after the slight drag that I just gave you, the Black exception to a white rule, you might feel a few ways about me and what I have to say. That is why I'm going to give you a choice. You can go back to the way you were before watching this video, or you could begin to live like you care about the lived experiences of people that share experiences with you. The choice is yours, but either way, know that Black capitalism will not save us. If you choose to do something about your internalized anti-Blackness, please begin to invest in the Black community that made it possible for you to be where you are. I'm talking to non-Black people of color as well. Do this whichever way your community seems to demand it. I love seeing us in luxury, but I also love us enough to fight for others like us to have more opportunity. If you learned anything from this video, please use anything you garner from higher education to help your community. Higher education has its potential rewards, but it also has very real pitfalls. And if you do not enter its clutches informed, it can rip you apart in multiple different ways, whether it be through the disparity of the job market you thought you would be prepared for, or the lack of awareness of your own community's problems because of your shiny new socioeconomic class. It is a social institution that often does not deliver on its promises. Be informed and be ready. Also, if you're already in higher education or even a graduate, try and utilize your access to fight for your people them in your own way. Contribute to creating intergenerational spaces of support at your learning institution. We deserve. With that, I have successfully completed another video. Until the next one, remember that you can always change your mind. Shout out Khadijah. Bye. Let me actually start this. Hold on.
Yeah,
See, this is me.
that's all good.
I'll be having to sort through like an hour and a half of footage every single time that I edit a video.
Oh yeah, that's the game. I'm usually not that bad though. If I'm doing an hour and a half of footage, it's usually for an hour video. So if you're doing an hour and a half or a 20-minute video, you got a lot of
Priceless footage right there. That's the type of stuff that was some blooper shots right there for Patreon.
Wait, hold on. Actually, no, you're right. Hold on.
Bro, who is this though? Bro, what am I watching? I'm done.
Black female filmmakers, we are just so underappreciated. Like people act like we don't exist. Like every time they want to talk about women in film, they be talking about white women, and I'm like, we here too.
Precisely.
They don't be caring. They don't care about our story.
A lot of my audience is queer, and I love that because like I'm working through like my own Caribbean homophobia. But like the thing is, like I'm more like, bro, I'm straight as fuck. Like I'm annoying. I'm aggressively straight. Like so like I'm like fam, like I just like my Discord server. I'm just like, bro,
Not
I'm gonna
super
just slip
straight.
up and say
You know
some
the
dumb
super
shit.
straight.
I'm not super straight, but I'm like aggressively like I'm like definitely not SS. No, but like I'm just like you know pretty fucking straight. So like when I see like just the amount of gayness inside my chat, and I'm just like, this is great. I need this. I need
Love
this
it.
diet. Like some gayness need to be in my diet, but I'm just like fuck. Like
That's
I
me
just
with
hope
my
that
trans
I don't
audience.
slip up.
There's so many trans people that are on my channel, and I'm just like, thank you so much.
I'm so happy they're here. I'm learning from them.
There's this very nice Saint Vincentian man who was there, and it was the first time that I was reading West Indian literature taught by a West Indian and in a classroom, because this was Brooklyn College with a lot of other West Indians. And it was a very nourishing way of realizing how many intersections existed. Like, and I think as I've gotten older, like my biggest pride has just been in being Black. Like when I hear stories about badass Black Americans, I feel joy. When I hear stories about continental Africans, I feel joy. The Caribbean, you know, Black transplants in France and in Ireland and anywhere, I'm like, we did that, we made it. And so like to me, at a certain point, your education and and education is a privilege, you know. Like I've been privileged enough to be an intellectually curious person and have the means in which to explore those things. And because of that, that's part of why I like doing YouTube, because everyone should have access to that. And YouTube becomes a really good way to share that kind of information.